Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me on this gorgeous afternoon here in Surrey. At Doerr Dallas Valuations, we thought we would put together another quiz for you, as we had great feedback and understand you all enjoyed it so much last time. However, we also understand that it was a bit tricky in places, so we've hopefully made it a little bit easier for you this time. There's two parts. The first part is to identify the top priced item, the middle priced item, and the lower priced item. So top, middle and bottom. And then the second part is to place value. So the nearest to it gets a point. And then after that, we'll give you the answers, but I'll introduce you to my team who will take you through the quiz, and I'll look forward to catching up with you a little bit later. So get your pens and your paper ready and enjoy.
Hi guys, Ben Hanley here. I am the post-war and contemporary specialist at Doerr Dallas Valuations. My three works are as follows. The first is a painting. It's a masterpiece by one of America's most famous and acclaimed contemporary artists. He was a New York African-American artist, a close friend of Andy Warhol's, and he was highly influenced by graffiti. The second work is a sculpture by a UK artist, a very famous UK artist who burst onto the international art scene with a number of his colleagues in the late 80s, early 90s, and the school of art that they founded in the UK is known by three letters. The third work is also by a UK contemporary artist, and the subject matter links to one of the most controversial recent political events in the UK's history.
Hello, my name is Rupert Nealance and I'm a book and manuscript specialist. The amount of books published on sports and games is phenomenal. The earliest book on chess by Lucena was published in Salamanca in 1497. I want to ask you about three later chess books. Number one, Arthur Saul's The Famous Game of Chess Play, published in 1614, a first edition with a woodcut title, or I should say a woodcut on the title. Number two, Howard Staunton's Chess Player's Handbook, second edition, 1848, with a chromolithographic frontispiece. And number three, Marcus Vida's Latin poem on the game of chess, 1921 edition, translation in English, as well as the Latin text, and wonderful woodcuts, quarto size, by Nell Lambert. So the question is, which is the most affordable of these three books, and which is the rarest, the one you may hunt for in vain? You might also like to think of the value of all three. The Saul first, the Staunton next, and the Vida third. Give them an order of preference in value. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Horwich. I'm a modern and contemporary specialist at Doerr Valuations, and here are my three questions. First off, A is by someone who many of you may recognise and is possibly the most famous English painter that we have. B is perhaps by someone who's much more famous for being famous than is known as a painter. Bit of a clue there. And then C, someone who's a friend of B and was able to arrange for him to be acknowledged by the Royal Academy for his efforts during the Second World War by being made an honorary member. There we are, there's a teaser for you. So there's three questions, answers to follow.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Alistair Meiklejohn and welcome to my Lincolnshire Lockdown Loft. The items that I've chosen for you today are three guitars, all owned by pretty famous people. Now the question is, which one is the best, which one is the worst, and which one sits in the middle. So, first of all, we have a white Stratocaster, a black Stratocaster, and an acoustic guitar. So, which one is the best, which one is the worst, and which one sits in the middle? You will see later.
Hello, I'm Doerr Dallas, Chief Executive of Doerr Dallas Valuations, and I'm a specialist in Old Master and early British paintings. I have chosen 3 Dutch portraits from the Golden Age, the 17th century, for you to assess. Superficially, they look pretty similar, but they vary dramatically in price. See if you can work out which one's which.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Alistair Meiklejohn here and welcome to the Lincolnshire Lockdown Loft. Now here we have 3 variants of Rolex's superstar chronograph, the Daytona. Originally launched in 1963, it was initially very much a sports utility watch made from stainless steel for hard work and action. Nowadays we have many different versions, including dress watches in precious metals with a plethora of precious stones. For your consideration, we have 3 models. Number 1. Gold with a rainbow bezel. Number 2, a stainless steel model. And number 3, another different gold model. So, which is most valuable, which is least valuable, and which sits in the middle? We'll find out a bit later.
So we've got 3 pictures here of some beautiful naturally coloured diamonds. The question is, which is the most expensive? Let me give you a few details to help you make your choice. So is it number 1, which is a yellow pear-cut diamond weighing 13.55 carats. It's graded as a natural, fancy, vivid yellow colour, and its clarity grade is VS1. Or is it number 2, which is a pink pear-cut diamond weighing 16 carats. It's graded as a natural, fancy, intense pink colour, and its clarity grade is VVS2. Or is it number 3, which is a blue pear-cut diamond weighing 14.54 carats. It's graded as a natural, fancy, vivid blue colour, and its clarity is IF, internally flawless. Which one is the most expensive?
Congratulations for completing the questions. We're now going to see how you did with the answers.
Hi guys, the answers to my questions are as follows. Let's start with item number 3, which is a painting by Banksy entitled Vote Love. The work is a Brexit themed work and relates to a pro-Brexit placard that was seen at a Nigel Farage rally, which said vote leave. Now clearly Banksy, in his usual inimitable manner, he subverted the message to say vote love. The work was bought at Sotheby's this year for £1.2 million, I guess an estimate of £4,600,000 by an investment banker who wanted a rather pricey souvenir of the Brexit campaign. Item number 2 is by the YBA artist Damien Hirst, and it's a sculpture which holds the world record for a Damien Hirst sculpture. It's called The Golden Calf, and clearly references the biblical subject of the same name. It shows a calf in formaldehyde with gilded horns, and it's a very beautiful work. It sold in 2008 at Damien Hirst's famous artist held sale, where it made just under £10.5 million, which, as I said, is a world record for a Damien Hirst sculpture. The third painting is the biggie. That is by Jean-Michel Basquiat, the very famous New York graffiti artist. The work made $110 million, almost $110.5 million in 2018, when it came to sale. Now, it's clearly, it's one of his great masterpieces. It's his world record. It's what's called as a cabeza, which is Spanish for head. So it's the classic portrait head. It's got everything you want from a Basquiat. It's got the sort of the aggression, the energy, the bright colours. It was bought by an Asian client, as I said, for a world record of $110.487 million. There you go.
Hello, here I am again with the answers. The most affordable of the three chess books is Howard Staunton's Handbook of 1848. This is likely to cost you around £40 or £50 for a nice fresh copy. Staunton was then the best chess player in the world. The standard chess pieces were named after him, and his book continued to sell in huge numbers up to 1949. It's not hard to find. Vida's Latin poem on chess, Scacia Ludus, was first published in the early 16th century, so a 1921 edition is late. However, it's a handsome quarto. The English translation is very good, very enjoyable for those who don't know Latin, and the woodcuts by Nell Lambert are even better. I recommend it. Expect it to cost you around about £120. Now, Saul's 1614 book is not particularly early as chess books go, but it is a first edition, and not only that, it's the first English published treatise on chess. A copy of the 6th edition, dated 1673, sold at auction in 2018 for £8,750. Quite a price. That was the 6th edition. A collector lucky enough to find the 1614 first edition will have to pay a lot for it. Quite possibly £16,000, quite possibly even more than 16,000. It's a veritable treasure. Thanks.
Hi, how'd you get on? Hope you had fun. Here are the answers in ascending order, starting with C by Sir Alfred Munnings, wonderful picture called The Fairground, a canvas from 1912 when he is living and working probably at his happiest down in Cornwall. This carried an estimate of 100 to 150,000 and sold for £106,250. Next is B by our wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Painting for him was a pastime, but he was a very busy man, and this particular one was from the Vivian Leigh collection, was given by Churchill in 1930 to Vivian Leigh as a gift, and was part of Vivian Leigh's private collection sale. It was expected to make 70 to 100,000, and guess what? It very nearly made 10 times that, £638,000. With Churchill, celebrity counts. Indeed, he is one, but very much it matters who he has given these things to. So this perhaps was top trumps when it comes to celebrity, hence the spectacular price, and a very beautiful picture too. And our top price was for A by L.S. Lowry. I'm sure many of you recognised his work. It's a picture called The Mill, Pendlebury, which is where he lived prior to the war. It's an oil on canvas, 18 by 21 inches, so a good size, in absolutely pristine condition, from a private collection from America. The owner was English, and he went off to work in scientific research post-war and just settled there. So the picture sort of disappeared with him. It never been exhibited until it was seen late last year. So a really spectacular thing. This was estimated between 700 and a million and made 2,600,000. So very nearly 3 times what was expected. But really a classic Lowry with all the elements: figures, dogs, children, chimneys, towers, the whole 9 yards is there. Fantastic thing. Well, I hope you had fun. I look forward to seeing you next time, and that's it from me.
Thank you for joining me again, ladies and gentlemen, for the answers to my guitar questions. So, item A. This is the 1968 white Stratocaster that Jimi Hendrix used at possibly his most famous performance at Woodstock in 1969, although there are no signs of any lighter fluid burning. This item sold to Paul Aller of Microsoft for $2 million and considered to be the ultimate Hendrix relic. Item B. Now, this is the most famous guitar associated with Pink Floyd legend David Gilmour, and has been given the imaginative title of the Black Strat. Now, I'm sure they were too focused on making music rather than naming their guitars, though. Interestingly, this guitar has been so heavily modified that it's rumoured that the only actual original part is the pickup selector. But nevertheless, it's still one of the most iconic guitars and a piece of rock history. This item sold quite recently at auction for $3,975,000. Item C. This Gibson J160E is the guitar that John Lennon owned in the early 1960s and can be seen in a lot of the early appearances on TV. But it was stolen a few years later and purchased unknowingly by a novice musician who kept it for 50 odd years without knowing it. It was only after some checking of serial numbers and looking at wood grain, which I suppose for guitars is almost like fingerprinting, and then after agreeing a sizable charity donation to the John Lennon Foundation, the guitar was later sold for $2.4 million. So, in order, the most valuable is the Black Strat. In the middle, we have the John Lennon Gibson, and last, but certainly by no means least, we have the white Hendrix Stratocaster.
A is by an artist from Gorringen called Hendrik Verschuring, and he's on the market for £22,000. B is by Bartholomeus van der Helst, an Amsterdam painter, who was more popular in his day than Rembrandt, and he is worth £500,000. And C is by another Amsterdam painter, Louis Vallet, and he is currently on the market for £125,000. How did you get on?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me for the answers to the watch questions. So, first of all, cheapest is number 3. It's 18 karat gold throughout and has a top-class automatic movement, and it looks in pretty good nick for a 40-year-old timepiece. The current version of this watch sells new for £29,500. Now, this watch was made in about 1983 and sold in 2017 for $35,000. The middle price is number 1. It's called the Rainbow Daytona for obvious reasons, and 18 karat gold and smothered in diamonds and mixed coloured sapphires. It's no longer in production, but the last retail price I had was about £75,000. This watch was made in about 2010 and sold in 2016 for £185,000. Now, the most expensive, of course, is number 2. It's an early steel Daytona and is one of the rare and very sought-after examples of what is known as the Paul Newman Daytona. Newman was given an early one for his car racing exploits, but wanted to make the dial plainer and easier to read at speed. So instead of thin lines marking the 5-minute sectors, he wanted luminous dots on a plain dial ground with contrasting subsidiary dials. This version has what is known as a panda dial again, for very obvious reasons, and make this one quite special. Ordinary Daytonas of this vintage are in the £50,000 to £65,000 range. Sadly, we are now seeing some of these watches now replaced with newly made Paul Newman dials, therefore in theory increasing the watch's value 5-fold. So if you're thinking about splashing out £250,000 on a watch, get it checked out by a specialist first. All Rolexes have their model references numbers engraved on the edge of the case under where the number 6 appears on the dial, and are pretty well 100% reliable for identification. And don't forget, for your £250,000, you don't get an automatic watch and you'll have to wind it at least once a day. This watch was made in about 1968 and sold in 2018 for $275,000.
So all of these diamonds have sold at auction over the past 3 years. The most expensive is number 3, which sold for an amazing $41 million. The second is number 2, which sold for $15 million. And in third place is number 1, which sold for a mere $1,450,000.
Thank you so much for completing the quiz. We hope that you've enjoyed doing it. We have certainly enjoyed putting it together for you guys. It's been great fun. We hope that you've had a chance to also watch our webinars that we've been doing as a team. Again, they've been great fun to do. We are now operational, doing client visits in clients' homes, so please do get in touch with us, obviously following all the government guidelines. But if if we can help, give us a call. But in the meantime, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye bye.